Distinguished speakers and participants to this ceremony, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by congratulating all the enterprises that today will be awarded for being the most innovative in key industries in Vietnam, and by thanking the organizers of this important event for their invitation. Today, I'd like to talk about the key role that productivity growth and innovation must play to allow Vietnam achieving its development objectives. Without greater innovation and faster productivity growth, Vietnam will not be able to become a high-income economy by 2045. Vietnam, as you know, has enjoyed 3 decades of extraordinary progress. Since the launch of the Doi Moi reforms in 1986, the country has seen impressive achievements, including the rapid structural transformation of the economy, soaring household incomes, and dramatic poverty reduction. From an impoverished country in 1986, on the brink of an economic crisis, Vietnam has become a dynamic, middle-income country deeply integrated in the global economy. This success is the result of decisive reforms that began with Doi Moi and continued during the 90s and the 2000s. And during the last 2 decades, median household income quadrupled, and extreme poverty dropped from 50% to less than 1%. In recent years, Vietnam weathered shocks, including the COVID pandemic, better than most countries. The country has since set even greater goals, now aiming to be a high-income country by 2045 and a decarbonized economy by 2050. The Socio-Economic Development Strategy 2021-2030, released in early 2021, sets out an ambitious vision to become a high-income country by 2045, the 100-year anniversary of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Shortly after, Vietnam committed to a target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050 at the UN Climate Change Conference. The high-income target is very ambitious, both relative to Vietnam's historical record and in the international context. It implies an annual growth rate in per capita terms of 5-9% growth for the next 2 decades, each year. Just for comparison, Vietnam averaged annual GDP growth of 5.9% between the period of 1991 to 2000. Then it became 5.5% between 2002 and 2012, and then a rise to 5.0% between 2012 and 2022, over the last 3 decades. Moreover, roughly 25 years into the country's growth acceleration, the economies that made it into the high-income country ranks, like the Republic of Korea and Taiwan, maintained their growth records of the first 25 years in the following 25 years, while those economies that didn't make it, like Brazil, Egypt, or Thailand, started to decelerate. Currently, Vietnam is just 8 years past this 25-year point at which the growth path has bifurcated for other countries. And there are headwinds, as you know, that might threaten achieving high-income status by 2045. And I'm not just talking about short-term headwinds associated with global monetary tightening and the weakening of global demand, but also longer-term challenges as the export and FDI-led growth model that propelled Vietnam's economy by exploiting its comparative advantage in cheap labor and low-value added jobs might be running out of steam. The chart in this slide offers interesting insights on the role of productivity in a context where both demographics and labor force participation might present a challenge for Vietnam's future. The increasingly negative impact of an aging population has got a direct impact on employment levels, but might have also an indirect impact on female labor force participation, which is currently very high in Vietnam, but could drop going forward as working-age women pick up the growing elder care responsibilities. The figure here shows three possible future scenarios. All of them use United Nations population projections. So the aging population increases its drag on the economy from minus 0.11 points in 2010 to minus 0.24 by 2045. The first bar over there assumes participation and employment by gender and output per worker to stay constant. And according to this baseline, per capita growth will reach 5.0%, which is not enough to achieve Vietnam's development objectives. The second bar shows how Vietnam would need higher output per worker, namely productivity gains, to reach the 5.9% per capita, which is the average yearly rate required to achieve the 2045 high income objective. And the third bar tries to take into account the possible dynamics for female labor force participation in Vietnam. It assumes female labor force participation to drop from 80% in 2020 to 70% in 2045, as women pick up the increasing care burden. 70% is just a guess to illustrate the potential impact. In such a scenario, output per worker should grow even faster to offset the negative trends in terms of employment and labor force participation. According to World Bank growth accounting estimates, total factor productivity growth might need to double from an average annual rate of 1.7% for the period 2011 to 2019 to between 3.3% and 3.6% between now and 2045. This is very significant, and innovation and technology adoption must and can play a critical role to boost productivity in Vietnam and achieve these goals. These charts are taken from a report published by the World Bank in 2021, and they show how Vietnamese firms are still far from the technological frontier, and underlines the huge opportunity to close this gap through technology adoption and through innovation. The blue dots in the charts represent average firms in Vietnam, while the red dots represent the top 20% in terms of technology sophistication. But as you can see, Vietnam firms, on average, lag behind, both in the manufacturing sector and in the services sector. In a context of lack of innovation, the digital transition and the green transition that are shaping the world's future might present challenges. The digital and green transitions will have an impact on labor demand, the skill composition of the workforce, and firms' productivity. This chart here looks at the number of patents per capita in digital technologies, such as cloud computing, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence, and green technologies such as renewable energy production and storage and greenhouse gas capture. The chart shows that Vietnam, so far, has been less ready than other countries in terms of innovation in digital and green technologies. So going forward, it is key to leverage innovation to transform the challenges presented by the digital and green transition into opportunities for competitiveness, productivity, and growth. So, what is hampering innovation in Vietnam? A recent survey among startups companies in Vietnam provides some insights and suggests that the majority of startups find access to finance and business regulations as the main constraints that need to be addressed. Other issues include collaboration among actors in the ecosystem, but also access to qualified and skilled labor. So, what could be done going forward? In this slide, I would like to offer 5 recommendations to promote innovation-led growth in Vietnam. First, it would be useful to introduce a one-stop shop where firms can access information on all support programs for innovation. Second, it would be important to adopt international best practices in the design and implementation of innovation entrepreneurship policies. Third, authorities could invest in building a leading support agency, again based on international best practices. Fourth, it will be important to align the intellectual property and technology transfer framework in line with these international good practices in order to promote innovation. And fifth, the results of the survey I showed you in the previous slide suggest the importance of better leveraging private sector resources, including by revising regulations to unlock domestic finance and improve access to funds for firm upgrading and innovation. I conclude my intervention by underscoring once again how innovation is key for the future of Vietnam. Both firms and also the government need to focus more on the importance of innovation. If Vietnam does not scale up efforts in that direction, consequences might be severe, and the country might risk to slip into a middle-income trap and fail to achieve its high-income objective. Let me stop here, and I congratulate again the innovative enterprises that will be awarded today, and wish everyone good health, happiness, and success. Thank you.